It was around 2 in the morning when I left my friend's house in northern Arizona. The air was cold and dry, and the highway that cut through the desert was completely empty. No headlights ahead of me, no taillights behind. The kind of silence that doesn't feel peaceful at all, but heavy, like the world's holding its breath. I'd made that drive before from Flagstaff to Holbrook, but that night, something felt different. The kind of different you don't notice until too late. I had the radio on low, just static and soft classic rock fuzzing in and out. Every few miles, the signal would die completely, leaving nothing but the hum of tires against asphalt. My car's dash lights cast a pale green glow across the windshield, and I remember thinking that if I got stranded out there, I'd probably go crazy before sunrise. The highway was lined with endless stretches of desert, dry bushes, and black ridges in the distance. There wasn't a house or gas station for 30 miles in either direction. I was about halfway through the drive when I saw her. At first, it looked like a shape in the corner of my headlights, something pale near the edge of the road. I slowed instinctively, squinting into the dark. The beam caught her fully then, a woman standing just off the shoulder near the ditch facing away from me. She had long hair that blew slightly in the desert wind, and a white dress that looked old, torn maybe, but not dirty. It fluttered against her legs like paper. I stopped the car about 10 feet from her. My heart was thudding so hard I could feel it in my throat. I rolled down my window a little. "Hey, are you okay?" No answer. She didn't even flinch. She was barefoot, I realized. Her arms hung loose at her sides, and her skin was unnaturally pale under my headlights. My first thought was that she'd been in some kind of accident. Maybe her car broke down or she'd wandered away from it. I turned off the engine and stepped out, the desert air biting my skin. The silence was so deep it made my ears ring. "Miss?" I called again, walking a few steps closer. "Do you need help?" That's when I noticed something strange. Her hair wasn't moving anymore. The wind had stopped completely. Even the faint hum of insects that I'd heard when I opened my door, gone. Just silence. I took another step, my shoes crunching the gravel. She still didn't move. Her head was tilted just slightly to the right, like she was listening for something. I stopped about 5 feet from her. "I can take you to town," I said, my voice shaky. That's when she turned around. It wasn't a sudden spin. It was slow, like she was pivoting underwater. And when her face finally met mine, every hair on my body stood up. Her eyes, they were wrong. The irises were too dark. The whites clouded over like old glass. Her mouth was open slightly, like she was about to say something, but the corners trembled instead. "Are you okay?" I whispered. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. Then she smiled. It wasn't wide, but it was enough. Just that slight, unnatural curl of the mouth that made my stomach twist. The kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes. I backed up a step. "Look, I'll call someone, okay? I'll get you help." She took one step toward me, slow and deliberate. Her bare foot pressed into the gravel without making a sound. Then another step. I turned and bolted to the car. My keys fumbled in my hand, but I managed to slam the door shut and hit the lock. My breathing was ragged, my chest tight. I flicked on the headlights again. She was gone, just gone. The road and ditch were empty. I scanned the area for movement, but there was nothing. No footprints, no sound, just the endless stretch of black desert. I told myself she'd stepped into the ditch, maybe ducked behind one of the bushes, but I didn't want to get out again to check. I just sat there shaking until I finally started the car and pulled back onto the highway. I didn't go more than a mile before I saw something ahead, a faint flicker of red light on the side of the road. My heart sank. It was a car, hazard lights flashing weakly. I slowed down again, hesitating. The vehicle looked old, maybe a 90s sedan, its front bumper crushed against a guardrail. The driver's door was open, and in the ditch beside it, a woman's body. She was lying face down, long dark hair tangled across her back, white dress torn and covered in dust. My blood went cold. I slammed on the brakes, staring. My mind started racing. Was that the same woman? How could she be there already? I turned off my headlights for a second, just to see if I was imagining it. The darkness swallowed the scene completely. When I turned them back on, she was gone again. The ditch was empty. The car was still there, hazards blinking, but there was no one. I hit the gas and didn't look back. For the next 20 miles, I couldn't stop glancing in my rearview mirror. Every time my headlights swept across the empty desert, I expected to see her walking toward me. Then around 2:45 a.m., I caught movement in the mirror. A shape in the back seat. I jerked the wheel slightly, my breath catching. It was just a shadow, or I thought it was. The dim green dash light illuminated something behind me for half a second. A shape sitting perfectly still, too tall to be my jacket, too dark to be a trick of light. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. I just stared straight ahead, knuckles white on the steering wheel. My heart was hammering so hard it drowned out the road noise. Finally, after what felt like forever, I saw the glow of a gas station sign ahead, some lonely 24-hour station in the middle of nowhere. I swerved into the lot, slammed on the brakes, and jumped out. The attendant inside looked half asleep when I burst through the door. "You all right?" he asked. "There's someone on the road," I stammered. "A woman. She's hurt. Maybe dead." He blinked slowly. "White dress?" I froze. He nodded, rubbing his jaw. "You're not the first to say that." I stared at him, trying to process what I'd just heard. He sighed and leaned against the counter. "There was a wreck out there a few years back. Woman fell asleep at the wheel, hit the rail, flipped into the ditch, died before anyone found her. They say she's still out there, flagging down drivers for help." I didn't say anything. My mouth had gone dry. "You look pale," he said after a moment. "Want some water?" I just shook my head. "No, I need to sit." He nodded toward a booth by the window. I sat there, staring out at my car under the flickering fluorescent light. The longer I watched, the more I felt like someone was sitting in the passenger seat, waiting for me to come back. When I finally worked up the nerve to drive away, I kept every light on in the car, radio blasting. About 10 minutes later, I caught a glimpse of something in the rearview mirror again. Not her face, just a blur of white, drifting past the window behind me. I didn't look again. To this day, I can't drive that stretch of highway without feeling my skin crawl. I've never seen her again, but sometimes, when I pull over at night to rest or check directions, I swear I can smell desert dust and old perfume through the open window. And once, just once, when I was driving home at dawn, my phone's reflection in the windshield caught something behind me, something pale, sitting quietly in the back seat, smiling. I blinked, and it was gone. But I'll never forget that night. Never. I used to drive trucks for a living. Not the big rigs, just mid-size freight trucks enough to carry equipment from one site to another across the Southwest. I'd make the same route 2 or 3 times a week, from Albuquerque to Tucson through endless desert highways that looked identical in daylight and terrifyingly alien at night. It wasn't a glamorous job, but it was honest work, and the solitude of the road used to feel peaceful. Used to. The night it happened, I'd left Tucson later than usual. The delivery had run long because the client wanted to double-check the inventory. By the time I hit the open highway, it was past midnight. The route back east was empty as always. Black sky, darker land, and a thin ribbon of asphalt cutting through nothing. I had about half a tank of gas, plenty to make it to the next rest stop. But I was tired, bone tired, and decided to stop at the first open station I found. Around 1:20 a.m., I spotted a faint neon glow in the distance. A gas station or maybe a diner, I couldn't tell yet. The sign flickered between open and darkness every few seconds. I remember thinking it was strange because I'd driven this road dozens of times and never noticed any station there before. As I got closer, the details started to emerge. It was an old-style station. 2 pumps under a faded canopy, the kind that still used mechanical dials instead of digital screens. There was a small convenience store attached, lights humming softly behind dirty glass windows. A rusted sedan sat parked off to the side, half covered in dust. I pulled in. Gravel crunched under my tires, echoing loud in the stillness. I left the engine running and stepped out, stretching my legs. The air was cold, sharper than usual, and smelled faintly of metal and something else, something like burnt rubber. There was a faint buzzing sound from the fluorescent light over the pumps. I looked around, no one. The windows of the shop were fogged from the inside, but a dim light flickered behind them like a TV or a small lamp. I grabbed the nozzle and started pumping. The dial spun sluggishly, the mechanical clack, clack, clack echoing across the lot. It was so quiet that every sound felt amplified. My own breathing, the faint creak of the canopy in the wind, the low hum of the truck's engine. That's when I saw movement inside the store. Just a shadow at first, passing behind the counter. I felt relief more than anything. Someone was here, which meant this wasn't one of those abandoned stations that still randomly had power. The pump clicked, signaling it was full. I hung up the nozzle and walked toward the door. A small bell jingled overhead as I stepped inside. The air was stale, heavy with the smell of old coffee and dust. The lights flickered weakly, illuminating rows of outdated snacks and faded posters. The counter was empty, but there was a half-empty cup of coffee sitting there, still steaming slightly. "Hello?" I called. My voice sounded too loud. No answer. Behind the counter, there was a small black and white TV playing some old sitcom with the volume turned way down. The laugh track crackled through static. "Anyone here?" I called again, louder. A few seconds later, I heard a shuffle from the back room. Slow footsteps, uneven, dragging slightly. Then a man appeared. He was tall and thin, maybe in his late 50s, with pale skin and deep shadows under his eyes. His uniform was outdated, dark blue with a name patch that read Earl. He blinked slowly like he was just waking up. "Evening," he said finally, voice raspy. "Pump give you trouble?" "No," I said. "Just filling up." "You open late, huh?" He looked past me toward the pumps as if confirming something. "Always open," he said after a pause. His tone made my skin crawl. There was something off about it. Not threatening exactly, but hollow, like he was reciting a line he'd said 1,000 times. I pulled out my wallet. "How much for the full tank?" He squinted at the register. 34 even. I handed him the bills. He took them without counting, just stuffed them into the drawer. His fingers were cold when they brushed mine, ice cold like he'd been holding metal. I tried to make small talk. "Don't think I've seen this place before. New ownership?" He stared at me blankly. "Been here since '78, I frowned. I drive this highway all the time. Thought I knew every station between Tucson and Socorro." He didn't answer. Instead, he turned his head slightly toward the window, eyes narrowing. "You shouldn't stay long," he said quietly. "Storm's coming." I glanced outside. The sky was clear, no clouds, no lightning, nothing. Just the endless dark horizon. "Storm?" I said, half laughing. "Doesn't look like it." He looked back at me with an expression I couldn't read. They don't always show up where you can see them. I remember a weird chill going through me. Something about the way he said it. I nodded slowly and started backing toward the door. "Right, well, thanks, Earl." He didn't respond. Just stared, eyes dull, face slack. When I stepped outside again, the air felt heavier somehow, like the atmosphere had thickened. I could hear something faint, like distant thunder, but it didn't sound like thunder, more like a deep, drawn-out moan. I turned toward the horizon. A faint red glow pulsed behind the hills to the east. Maybe a fire. It looked wrong, though. Too steady, too slow, like something breathing. I climbed into the truck and started the engine, telling myself I was just tired, imagining things. The clock on the dash read 1:47 a.m. I pulled back onto the highway. The station's neon sign flickered in the mirror for a few seconds before vanishing behind me. For a while, everything seemed fine. The hum of the tires, the steady rumble of the engine, it was almost calming. I reached over to change the radio station. Nothing but static. I tried another, then another, still static. That's when I realized the road looked different. The mile markers were missing. The terrain had changed subtly. No longer flat desert, but gentle rolling hills covered in scrub and dead grass. I'd driven this route 100 times. I knew every curve, but this was wrong. I slowed down, checking my GPS. The screen was blank, no signal. A few minutes later, I saw headlights in the distance. Relief washed over me. Another car, finally. I flashed my brights once in greeting. The headlights grew closer, then swerved slightly into my lane. I honked and veered right, heart pounding. The car roared past, close enough that I could see the driver's face for a split second. It was Earl, the same man from the station, same hollow eyes, same expression. Only he didn't look alive. His skin was gray, mouth hanging slightly open. The car disappeared into the darkness behind me. I slammed the brakes, trembling, trying to calm down. My hands were slick with sweat. When I looked up again, the rearview mirror showed nothing. No taillights, no road behind, just blackness. I put the truck in gear and pressed the gas. The road ahead stretched endlessly, no signs, no exits. Just the same repeating patches of asphalt and reflective posts. And then, maybe 5 minutes later, I saw it again. The gas station. Same faded canopy, same flickering sign. I stared, my mouth going dry. That wasn't possible. I hadn't turned around. Still there it was, sitting by the roadside like it had been waiting. I slowed, staring at the sign. The neon light blinked twice, then steadied, glowing a deep red instead of white this time. Open. I drove past it, forcing myself not to stop. But as I did, I looked toward the storefront and saw myself standing inside, just for a heartbeat. A reflection, a shadow, I don't know. But it was me. Same jacket, same trucker cap, standing behind the glass, staring out at me with an expression of pure terror. I pressed the accelerator and didn't stop until I hit 90. The road blurred beneath the tires. My breath came in shallow gasps, every muscle tense. Minutes or maybe hours passed. The horizon started to lighten slightly, a faint gray hinting at dawn. Finally, I saw a green highway sign ahead. Relief flooded through me. Civilization. I slowed down to read it. Mile 47, gas, food, lodging. My stomach dropped. I glanced at the fuel gauge. It was low again. That didn't make sense. I'd just filled up. The needle hovered near empty. Then the truck sputtered once, coughed, and died. The lights flickered off, leaving me in silence. I coasted to a stop on the shoulder. For a long time, I just sat there, gripping the wheel. Then faintly, I heard it again. The buzzing of fluorescent lights. I turned my head. Through the windshield, about 50 yards ahead, the neon sign glowed red in the dark. Open, I whispered to myself. No, 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 no. I tried the ignition. Nothing. The battery was dead. Then I saw movement near the pumps. A figure stepping into the light. It was Earl. Only this time, his head hung slightly to one side, neck at an unnatural angle. His hands were blackened like they'd been burned. He raised one of them slowly and pointed at me. I don't remember getting out of the truck, but suddenly I was running. My boots pounded the gravel, heart slamming against my ribs. I could hear him calling after me, voice echoing across the desert. Storm's coming. The wind hit me hard, carrying the smell of ozone and something foul, like decay. I looked up. The sky above the station wasn't sky anymore. It was swirling, red and black, like a living thing twisting in silence. I stumbled backward, tripping over a rock. When I looked again, the gas station was gone. Just open desert. No lights, no building, no sign. I ran until my legs gave out, collapsing near a dry wash. I must have blacked out because when I woke up, the sun was up and a state patrol car was parked on the shoulder nearby. The officer said he'd found my truck abandoned on the highway, engine dead, no fuel. I tried to explain what happened, but he just frowned. It was supposed to be an easy overnight haul. 6 hours of open highway, just me, the truck, and a late-night playlist to keep me awake. I'd been doing delivery work for almost 3 years, long enough to know every rest stop and diner across this stretch of I-70 between Colorado and Kansas. That night, though, everything felt off. It had started raining earlier than expected. Not a heavy downpour, but the kind that turned the horizon into a blurry mess of reflections. My windshield wipers were struggling to keep up, the rhythmic squeak sounding more like breathing than machinery. I told myself I was just tired. I'd been on the road since sunset, and the caffeine from my last gas station coffee had already worn off. I remember passing Exit 9, nothing but a broken billboard and a small green sign pointing towards some forgotten local road that cut through farmland. I'd seen it dozens of times and never once taken it. I always joked that if I ever broke down near there, I'd just sleep in the cab until daylight because that part of Kansas felt like the middle of nowhere. No houses, no lights, just endless black fields on either side. That's why it startled me when I saw a figure standing by the shoulder near the exit sign. A person. alone, in the rain. At first, I thought it was a trick of the headlights, maybe a reflection from one of those highway markers. But as I got closer, there was no mistaking it. A tall figure in a dark coat, head slightly tilted, one arm raised like they were trying to wave me down. I slowed instinctively. It wasn't normal to see anyone out there at this hour, not unless something had gone very wrong. Maybe their car had broken down. Maybe they'd crashed into the ditch. I couldn't just drive past without checking. I pulled onto the shoulder about 20 yards ahead of where the person was standing and flicked on my hazard lights. Through the rain-streaked side mirror, I saw the figure start walking toward me. Something about the pace felt strange. Not fast, not desperate, just measured, like they weren't in a hurry at all. I rolled the passenger window down an inch as they approached. "Hey," I called out. "You all right? You need help?" The person stopped beside the door. The rain made it hard to see their face clearly, but I could tell it was a man, late 30s maybe, wearing a soaked brown trench coat and no hat. His hair hung in wet clumps across his forehead. He leaned slightly to speak through the crack in the window, and that's when I noticed his eyes. They were open wide, not frantic, but vacant, like he was looking past me instead of at me. "My car," he said quietly. "It died just up ahead. Can you give me a lift to the next station?" His voice was calm but oddly flat, like he was reading lines he'd rehearsed too many times. I hesitated. I've given rides before. Truckers help each other out when it's safe, but something about this guy didn't sit right. Still, the rain was pouring harder and the humane part of me pushed back. "Sure," I said finally. "Hop in. But I'm only going to the next service stop, maybe 15 miles. He nodded once and opened the door. When he climbed in, the smell hit me first. A mix of wet earth and something metallic, faintly like rust or blood. I tried not to react. He sat rigidly, hands on his knees, eyes fixed straight ahead. His coat left a dark stain on the seat. I turned the heat up a little and started driving again. For a few minutes, neither of us spoke. The only sound was the hiss of the tires on the wet pavement and the drone of the rain. Eventually I asked, "So where's your car? You said it died up ahead, right?" He didn't answer right away. I glanced over, thinking maybe he hadn't heard me, but he was still staring forward. Finally, in that same even tone, he said, "It's back there, near the sign." I frowned. "The sign? You mean the exit sign?" He nodded once, slowly. "That's back a few miles now," I said. "You walked that far in this weather?" Another pause. Then, yes, I had to. There was something strange about the way he said it. No emotion, no context, just a flat statement that made my skin prickle. I tried again. "You from around here?" He turned his head slightly, not enough to make eye contact, but enough for me to notice the deep shadows under his eyes. "Not anymore," he said. I wanted to ask what that meant, but before I could, something flickered in my peripheral vision. The headlights caught a shape on the side of the road. Another car, half off the shoulder. Its hood was popped open and the driver's door hung wide. My chest tightened. "Is that yours?" I asked. The man didn't answer. "Hey," I said again, louder this time. "Is that your car?" He finally looked at me. The corners of his mouth twitched like he was trying to smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Not anymore," he repeated. I didn't say anything after that. My hands felt clammy on the steering wheel. The air inside the truck seemed thicker somehow, like the heater wasn't circulating right. Every time I glanced at him, he was in the exact same position. Shoulders square, head slightly tilted, eyes forward. I couldn't even tell if he was breathing. After maybe 10 more minutes, we passed a green highway sign. "Next services, 12 miles. I exhaled, relieved. "We'll be there soon," I said, mostly to fill the silence. "You got family waiting or someone I can call?" He didn't respond. That's when I noticed his hands. They were pale, unnaturally so, and resting motionless on his knees. The knuckles were raw, like he'd been dragging them across something rough. A faint tremor rippled through my stomach. "You okay, man?" "You're bleeding," he turned to me again, this time fully. His face was pale, lips cracked, eyes unfocused. "I didn't mean to," he said. "Didn't mean to what?" The road was wet. His voice dropped lower, almost a whisper. "It happened so fast. What happened?" He looked back out the windshield. "You saw it," he said. I didn't know what he was talking about. "Saw what?" "The car," he murmured. "The one on the shoulder?" I felt a chill run down my spine. "Yeah, the broken down car. That was yours, wasn't it?" He didn't blink. "It was." he said softly, before it went off the road. My stomach turned. I glanced in the rearview mirror, but all I could see was black rain and the faint reflection of our taillights. You mean you crashed? No response. Did anyone else get hurt? I asked, gripping the wheel tighter. He exhaled through his nose, slow and deliberate. She didn't move, he said. Who didn't move? He turned to face me again, and for the first time, I saw something like emotion in his expression. Just a flicker of something deep and hollow. My wife, he said. She didn't move. A cold wave went through me. I didn't know what to say. His tone was wrong, completely detached, like he was describing someone else's tragedy, not his own. I'm sorry, I managed. Did you call anyone? The police. I tried, he said. But I had to leave. I swallowed hard. You had to leave? He nodded once. She told me to. The air in the cab went dead silent. Only the rain filled the void. I could feel every hair on my arm standing up. Your wife told you to leave? I said carefully. But you said she didn't move. He smiled faintly, and something about it felt completely wrong. She didn't move, he said, but she spoke. I wanted to pull over, to get out, to end the conversation, but I couldn't. My foot stayed frozen on the gas pedal, and my eyes locked on the yellow lines blurring beneath the rain. The man leaned slightly forward now, voice low and deliberate. She said the road takes what it wants, he whispered. And it wanted her. Okay, I said, forcing a nervous laugh. You've had a rough night, man. Let's just get to the next station, yeah? We can call for help there. He didn't answer. The silence stretched again. 10 minutes passed. Then 15. Every sign I passed should have meant we were closer to the station, but the mile markers looked wrong. They kept repeating, exit 9, then exit 9 again. And again I blinked hard, rubbed my eyes. What the hell? The man beside me turned slowly, that empty stare cutting through the dim glow of the dashboard. You shouldn't have stopped, he said softly. What do you mean? Not for me. I looked ahead and my blood froze. The road curved slightly, and there in the distance, illuminated by my high beams, was a broken-down car on the shoulder. Its hood was open, the driver's door hanging wide. The same car, I whispered. The same shape, the same color, the same reflection of rain against the windshield. I slammed on the brakes. The truck skidded slightly, tires hissing against the wet asphalt. When I looked to my right, the passenger seat was empty. My heart was hammering so hard I could barely breathe. The seat was soaked through, puddles forming in the creases, but there was no sign of him. I spun around. The back seat was empty. The cab was silent except for the drumming of the rain. Then I noticed the smell. That same metallic tang, stronger now, almost suffocating. I fumbled for my flashlight and shone it across the floorboards. There were muddy footprints, fresh ones, leading from the passenger side to the rear of the cab. But the door hadn't opened. I shoved the gear shift into drive and floored it. The wheels spun before catching, and the truck lurched forward down the slick highway. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely keep it straight. I just wanted to see lights. Any lights. A gas station, a sign, anything. After what felt like forever, I saw the faint glow of a service area ahead, a small diner and a couple of trucks parked outside. I pulled in fast, slammed the door open, and stumbled into the diner. The bell above the door rang loud in the empty room. The woman behind the counter looked startled. You all right, honey? You look like you've seen a ghost. I couldn't even answer at first. I turned toward the window, half expecting to see someone following me.